Hi, y'all. How you doing tonight? We're excited to have you here and welcome you to Flatiron School's Coding for Beginners, Tic Tac Toe with React. My name is Corey Mickelson, and I'm the Marketing Events Coordinator here for Flatiron School. Big part of my job is hosting free introductory workshops like this one right here, as well as tech talks, where we take hot topics within the tech industry and we get to hear stories from professionals in their industries. A quick reminder, we will be using the chat function tonight as our main source of communication. So make sure if you have the little blue box to go ahead and change it from panelist and host to everyone. That way we can all chat together. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce everyone to our host this evening. Tao Lu is one of our lead software engineer instructors here at Flatiron. Take it away, Tao.
All right, hey everyone. Okay, so let me know if my mic ever has issues. It shouldn't though. But yeah, just let us know. So yeah, I'm a instructor here, teacher here, and I've been here for 3 years. So that's how long. And then today we're looking at this. Let me start sharing the slides. And I'll share my screen. We're going to look at this tic-tac-toe thing. So give me a moment. Let me start sharing. Okay, almost there. I'm sharing. If there's any technical things, just issues that come up, just let us know. So you should see my screen now. Yeah, so the tic-tac-toe, we're kind of gonna reverse engineer a little bit. It's an already built app, but we're like pretend it's like a radio. You know, it's hard to build it from scratch for a beginner, but a beginner can take apart a radio and start looking at the insides and just get like an intro of what makes up a radio or like a CD player or MP3 player. So pretend it's like that. So with that, let me go to the next slide. And today's schedule, let me, so that was like kind of the intro. We'll keep talking about this. And then we'll do a short segment on, a lot of you probably heard what HTML and CSS is, maybe not, but maybe you've looked into web development already. And then the first thing that probably popped up was HTML and CSS. And then we'll look at JavaScript and the DOM. We'll look at React after that. And those just for a few minutes, kind of an intro to those. And then we'll look at the actual app that we're taking apart. Okay, great. And the link that you got in the chat, it was the code sandbox. And it's like a little virtual, well, it says on there, Code Sandbox. It's an online editor. It allows you to quickly set up programming environments for different languages and setups, right? The sandbox, it's a great way to experiment with new technologies and also practice different features and functionality. And you can open the link. That link is the same one that was pasted in the chat. And then click there's a fork button. Once I start sharing, you can also, I'll show you what it is. But also, if you find it, you can sign in with GitHub or Google, or just continue without an account. Either way, you'll be able to, the fork button will allow you to make a copy of that project so you can work on it independently. And you don't have to sign up. You can just continue without an account if you don't have Google or GitHub handy right now. Yeah, so even without signing up, you'll be able to make a copy. You should be able to. Okay, so we'll get into that really soon after just a few minutes of talking over these slides. Okay, so the building blocks of a web page. So like I said, HTML and CSS are the most basic building blocks. And this HTML, a web page consists of HTML elements it's what they are called, which describe the semantics of a web page. HTML stands for hypertext markup languages. Elements are shown on a document with open and closing tags. There are self-closing tags, and we can talk about that. One example of a tag is this div element. A div is an element commonly used as a container to group other elements as shown. And we can see that later on too. And in the image on the left, you can see these divs. I don't know if you can see these, see my cursor as I'm cursoring over these divs on the left. But those are some examples of those divs, like divs inside other divs. Okay, so CSS. CSS is a language that allows us to make changes to the look and style of elements. We can change basic properties such as the color or size, or even add animations. I'm sure you've seen some really good looking websites, colors and moving parts. So that's all CSS. It's not the HTML. It's without CSS, none of that stuff would be able to happen. We often, second paragraph here, we often add attributes like a class or an ID to HTML elements so that we can identify the element to make appropriate styling changes using CSS. Right, so the CSS, it focuses on, remember what the element was? It was like the div, HTML div. So maybe one div has a blue, and a second div has a orange. And maybe one div has a shadow, or moves in circles. So the CSS lets you, like this image on the left, like lines 27, 28, those green lines, those are targeting specific things that you want to make things move or color change. Yeah, and you can see from the image, it's kind of self-explanatory, some of those words, like the font size. Font size. I'll keep going. And then I'll also, sometimes in the chat, Corey likes to keep a tab on the chat, but sometimes while I'm working or reading this, feel free to talk with each other, ask questions and answer questions with each other as well. But sometimes I might miss some of these chats in the question. Questions in the chat, but we'll have a Q&A session at the very end. So we'll definitely have that. Okay, so this slide is JavaScript. So we talked about HTML, CSS, and now JavaScript. It is a scripting programming language. It allows us to interact with the DOM. The DOM, yeah, what's that? It stands for Document Object Model. And it's a data representation of the objects that make up the HTML document. And don't worry, they're not gonna, this is all, you got to look more into it. As you start the course, as you Google more on these terms, like the DOM, you'll find out more. So don't worry, this is just very, very intro, some of these terms. Okay, so next is when we use JavaScript, we actually make updates to the DOM. Like if we want to add something, if we want to remove one of those divs, if we want to add a new div, like maybe I want to add a new pink box or something, or maybe we want to make a box like horizontally smaller and have the user see it stretch horizontally back and forth. That's all JavaScript can do that. CSS can do that too, actually. But we can do a lot with JavaScript too. We can maybe, if a website starts out empty, and then when you click a button, you want it to, I don't know, populate all the users inside a div. JavaScript allows that button to be clicked. And it allows it to function essentially. And if you see the image on the left, it has the That's JavaScript on the left. Yeah. And I don't know if you can see my cursor over line 15. And line 15 is kind of blurry on the left image, but there's like a click keyword, right? That's like, what happens if I click a button? What happens, right? JavaScript is dictating what happens when I click some button element. And we'll see more of that. Okay, so to summarize, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You've probably heard of those before, but this is just to summarize them again, right? Go ahead and look at the slide, look through that. Web HTML, it's a web page comprised of, a web page is comprised of HTML elements that essentially make up that page. It describes that page. Those elements described the structure and meaning of the page. For example, the P tag is essentially a paragraph, and the div tag, it stands for division. So like a division on the page. And a BR tag is a break, so like a line break. And CSS, that's the part that allows you to do colors, animations, styling, like italicized font to be really basic, bold fonts, okay? Alignments of text. And then JavaScript, it allows us to interact with the DOM, interact with the DOM. Like if I click something, okay, what happens? Maybe I want some logical if statement or some, I don't know, the web page to display some new thing. But the logic of all that is written through JavaScript, right? That's that. So we talked about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, or not React yet. We're going to talk about React now. But those are the three HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Those are the basics. And then on top of all that is React. So React is it's a React library. So it's a coding library. And here's what coding libraries are. It is code that other developers have already written that we can use in our own code. These libraries can range from adding a small portion of code to looking like an almost entirely new language. One example of a code library is React. React was built by and it's currently maintained by developers at Facebook, or Meta now. Using React allows us as developers to write cleaner and easier to understand code. The basis of React are components. These components can be a plain JavaScript function or a JavaScript class. We will be focusing on a component that will be a plain JavaScript function. And then we'll talk about more of that later. We'll look more through that later. That's a really brief overview of React. Don't worry if you're just a beginner and not sure about that. And these slides, the links in them, they'll be emailed to you at the end afterwards. So don't worry, you'll get these links. Okay. So yeah, that's that. So let me give me a second to switch over to the actual code sandbox that we can look through. And again, I'll probably miss a lot of these questions while I'm doing this, but feel free, there's 105 people right now. So just like if any advanced people want to answer some of these, create the community in the chat, feel free to. And again, we'll have questions at the end too. We'll pick out some questions. Okay, so let me switch over. Give me a sec. So you should be seeing the sandbox that was in the chat. pasted earlier that you can open up on your screen. Here's the fork button. This is the fork button that you click. So I'm already forked, but once you click that, it should give you a, like if I clicked, oh, oops. But if you have trouble, let us know in the chat. But once you click fork, you'll be able to make a copy of this on your own to type and save and pretend this is a coding editor. Okay. I just pasted it again, the link. And this is once again, the fork button, right? Okay, great. And then also, my camera's a little in the way. I'll be back with my camera. Let me turn it off for now as we're coding this. But I'll be back with my camera. So here, let's focus on this app though right now. Okay, so as you're seeing on my screen, we got the app, all right? On the right side is the tic-tac-toe game. That is the game. You can click it. It's like a one player, unless you have someone nearby. Play again. It works, you know, it works. This is the URL. It's like any other web page. You know, it's like any other web page. It's just because you're building web pages, right? You're building web pages. So this is just like any normal web page, but it's just within this sandbox. So that's the web address. And you can even open a new tab. Oh, I have full screen on. Like if I paste this web address in, it's just any normal web page. And then if you want to get this debugging tool up, this is the F12 key. F12, it brings up, you can look at all the HTML. Remember we were talking about HTML? Remember the tags, elements? Let me see if I can find a div in here. Here's a div, that div. And there's more divs inside the div. H1, H2, those are like the headers, big header, small header, button, right? Different buttons. Okay, great. That's a little bit of that. There's more things you can play around with. Network, memory. We don't use everything. So let's go back to the sandbox. Okay. So the sandbox. Give me a sec. Let me keep track of time. So give me a minute. Let me see what time it is. 3:24, and this goes to 4:30. Okay, so we should be at 4:30. Okay, so let's look at this. So how does this work? So what do we look at first? Okay, so first you'll see the, if we just want to inspect what's going on here, on the very left are these files. And remember, like the files and folders on your computer, it's the same idea. They just happen to name these what's convenient names to help them organize. The public folder, the source folder. It's called source because it's like your source files. That's what the source stands for. The helpers folder is called that because, does anyone know why it's called the helpers folder? You can write it in the chat if you want, or discuss. Yeah, why is it called the helpers folder? Anyway, it is because it's got like little helper things that you can just random things that maybe you think will be necessary, but helpful. But it's a way of organizing. Anyway, the point is the folders are a way of organizing your files, right? So what is the first file we will look at? The most basic file we should look at is the index.html, right? And these are the tags. The next file we should look at is the CSS file. CSS file. So what's the CSS file? Okay, this is styling. A lot of styling. What do I want the font to be? As you're seeing my cursor go over this text alignment, pretty self-explanatory, things like that. What if I want to change this to, you know, well, it just appeared. I was trying to let me change it. Now I have to type it. Orange, you know, I just changed to orange. Some of these are maybe like the height is 50. Oops, 50. It's a small change. Some of these aren't as intuitive as you think, but you get better with knowing what they truly do. I'll make the border really big. It actually looks nicer. I'll keep that. So CSS is like a designer's language. If you like visual design, it's meant to make it simple for you to change the look of things. The bigger X's, yeah, that's definitely better. So if I'm like a designer, you know, that's much more user friendly. Like you hear about UI and UX in design. So, yep, that's CSS for you. And then someone asked, are there multiple JavaScript files to keep the code more organized rather than having it all on one page? And yes, that's exactly why there are multiple files. It's kind of like if you're organizing your stuff, maybe like you wrote a creative writing novel and you want to organize your chapters into Microsoft Word documents, like 10 files, 10 chapters. Well, you probably wouldn't, but that's kind of the idea. You're just organizing things, you know. And of course, the titles of the files are supposed to hint at what the file contains and what it's for. So let me just give you guys a second to look over some of those names. Okay, and then you guys can look at. So maybe you looked at index.js. Why is it called index? I don't know, somehow they decided on index, but it's like the root, kind of like the index of all your indexes of all your other files, like the back of a book might have an index. So this holds all the other files usually. How does it hold what do I mean by holding the other files? And feel free to name things if you want to try to answer these. But it's through these words, these keywords: import, from, game, and that's referring to the game file, you know, the game file. And then the game file imports again from this play again button, right? And I'll let you look at that, take a minute to process. So we go to the play again button. This doesn't import anything because it's kind of like the end of the road. We don't really need anything else in this thing. It's by itself. Okay, so some of this stuff doesn't matter. Like if I put in new lines, it doesn't really affect the app. You can also do Control S or maybe Command S if you're on Mac to save these files for later if you want. So someone asked if you can save it on your computer. You can. So that's ideally the like saving your progress. If you're gonna maybe you want to delete everything and rebuild it or something, you can always save your progress. Right? Save your progress. You can also do multiple forks. Like if you want to fork again, you can keep the original fork as like the backup. And then the second fork, you can delete everything on there and then start building it from scratch, maybe using the first one as a reference. So you can do as many forks as you want and then like bookmark the URLs for later. Okay, great. Right, I'll keep moving because we will end at 4:30-ish. So let me just keep moving and look through this. It's 3:30 now. Okay, great. So we talked about, we kind of just talked about these files. Why are there folders and files? Okay. And how they find each other, right? And I'm highlighting these with my cursor.
Tao, can you go over again? Somebody wants to know how they can save it to their computer.
Like directly to your hard drive. You can type it in the chat again. But I don't think you can. I mean, you can, but it's more advanced. Like I'll show like if you actually want to literally save it to your computer, if that's what you mean, you'd have to. You wouldn't really want to because you can save it in the sandbox. You'd have to like click these and. Oh, actually, you know, if you're on a website, you can just save as. Like right click and save as, and it saves the entire website, including all these files that you need. So you can do it that way too, if you don't like using the sandbox. But actually I wouldn't, I mean, you can experiment with it, but I would use the sandbox. So hopefully that answers that question, how to actually save these to your computer. Okay. Oh, and there's the export to zip. Yeah, great. So see, help each other out. Yeah, help, definitely help. Export to zip button. Great. Yeah, if you want the sandbox export, it's in here somewhere. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. So we talked about these files. We talked about a little bit about how these files find each other. Okay. And then we'll look at what is the console here. Console. Usually if there's an error in your website, in your programming, in your code, like if I break something, the console will tell you, hey, there is a syntax error. You know, like a syntax error. It tells you the line number, line 7, you know, because I deleted a bunch of stuff. There's no way that's going to work anymore. So I can undo and brings it back. Okay, great. Let me get a glass of water. 1 sec. Okay, so that's the console. You can also use this thing called console.log. It's like hi, if I want to console log hi. And see how it pops up. But the reason is maybe you want to say it's for debugging purposes. If you want to debug your code, maybe you want to say like this is working if I can see the message. You know, it's like to keep notes to yourself or maybe to other developers if they're trying to work on your app, you know. So that's that. And then let's keep going. So that's the console, a really intro to the console. Okay, so what else do you see here? Does anyone see some things they find important feel free to tell each other as well. But what makes it, okay, so we got the stuff, but what makes it work? It's hard to say exactly what makes everything work because, you know, this is a beginner, so-called beginner's tic-tac-toe app, but not really because even such a simple app, I mean, look at all this code. You got a lot of code. And each code takes a lot of know-how, right? Like, look at all this. So we'll go over little bits of it. We'll talk about functions, and then someone asked use effect. It's called a React hook. So this is like the stuff you learn pretty advanced. So it lets you, the idea is it lets you like hook into things. It's kind of a method. There's like this is called a callback method. And that definitely is way more advanced. So, but it's called a hook. Let me type it. It's called a React hook if you ever want to Google it. But probably for advanced down the line, definitely. So again, it's called beginners, but there's a lot of parts in here that's not total beginner things. But we'll look at the more beginner things. I mean, what are the beginner things? It's more like HTML and CSS are the more beginner things, you know, like those are all easy, but some of this is a lot harder. But what we can look at is a function, right? So a function, does anyone want to write, you know, what they know about functions, what they do, maybe what the purpose of a function is? Why are there multiple functions with these names, different names? You know, I see 3 already here. A lot of functions. Yeah, why are there a lot of functions? Well, we'll take a look at this one function. Why is it called handle click? So the names are usually clues to what they do. And it handles like the clicking of a button. Oh, this is blank, so let me fix this real quick. Okay, there we go. But anyway, so a handle click, what am I clicking? Maybe it handles this click. Yep, it's an event listener. So the event, like someone typed in the chat, you know, event listener. The event, it's a click event, right? I'm clicking through here, click events. So let's keep looking. So if you ever have an app and you don't understand and you want to try to take it apart and try to understand it, this is the type of things you would do. You know, let me toggle the word wrap. So look here, view, word wrap. Okay, so it doesn't go over the space, horizontal. Okay, great. So inside this function, what's going on? Hey, let's say this. Okay, so this is where the function starts by this little curly brace, and this is where it ends with this little curly brace. And there's all the stuff inside. What if I remove it? What if I cut? Okay. Hey, look, hey, this time, you know, it's still, my app's still up. Even if I refresh the page. Wow, it's still up, okay? But if I click, I'm trying to click, but see, nothing's happening. Yeah, absolutely nothing. So nothing, the clicks aren't being handled. You know, that's why it's called handle click. So I broke a portion of the app. Now I'll put it back in. Let's see what's going on in here. So an if statement. It's trying to say like, what if something equals to something? I'll make this smaller so you can see it. It's calculating something about the winners, the losers, the target data set position. I mean, who would understand that just from looking at that? And that's okay. You're not supposed to, because it's supposed to build on later on in the course. In the course, you will start understanding more. But we can look at, what if I do this? What if I want to know what it is? Remember console.log. And you can literally do this on your side as well. If I add that in, and usually I have to, don't forget to save the file. Save the file, Control S or Command S, or through here, File, Save, Save All. Okay, and then I click. You don't actually have to refresh the page to see your changes. But see in the console how I have, that's a clue as to what this e.target.dataset.position is. Does anyone want to say in the chat? Well, not anyone, anyone can, what these numbers are referring to? Why is their numbers being displayed? Right, so like positions on the board, yeah. Positions on the board. Why does it need to change? Why does it need to keep track of positions on the board? Well, it's part of the game logic, of course, because it's trying to say, essentially trying to say, if the board position something is not blank, and this is saying like if it equals, this is a blank string, and don't worry if some of this isn't for a beginner a blank string of some of these terms, and there is no winner. Yeah, if there's no current winner, then if this stuff is true, then this code will run. So look here, I can literally copy paste what's in here. And instead of console logging the position, I can console log that whole line. If I click this little button, it clears the console. So it's easier to start over. True. Okay. I keep clicking true. It's really faint on my, because the color and the font, but it says 5 and it just, now it's 6, 7. I don't know if you can see it. But it's saying all those clicks, it's console logging true because it's checking the condition is true. Okay. Oh, see it's false. False now. Now it's false. Why is it false? Anyone want to say why it's false? Yeah, it's false now. From true, it became false. Why did it become false? Yeah, there's a winner and a loser. Yep, but specifically winner. So that's great because this winner, I can even console log this winner. The winner is X. You see that? It's still X. The condition hasn't changed. No condition has changed here. It's still X is the winner. Let's play again. Should I clear the console? Maybe I won't clear it this time, but it's just, so it's false. We'll look at game.winner. Why is this false? Oh, can anyone guess why game.winner starts out as false until, oh, hold on. Oh, it's a draw. Okay. Yes. Okay. So even now, yeah, even now there's no winner because there's some logic in here that determines a draw. So false. There's still no winner. But let's look at this winner thing. How would I, if I looked at, okay, just some part of the code, and I was wondering what is game.winner, game data.winner? How would I could literally try to scroll through everything and try to just find it. You know, it comes up here again, but that's not the original where it's set up. So I use this file. Oops, not file, but find magnifying glass. You see that? Or where is it? Where is, maybe I can just type winner. And winner, and I'll be more specific, game data. And it's not here, not here. And not here. Oh, give me a sec. Let me get a water drink. Okay, so I'm still looking for game data.winner. I thought it would find it, but it should be, I'm looking for the original thing. So it's not, it should be in this file. Why is it not here? Game data dot winner. Okay, so this is all state. So don't forget, this is not your basic JavaScript. It's got React in it. It's far more advanced than just JavaScript and CSS. And where is winner now? It actually isn't there normally, like you would think, but it's actually here. It's here. It is here. It is here as well. Winner starts out as false. It's part of this use state thing. I wouldn't worry too much about this during this talk, but essentially it's all part of that React hooks. I'll type it again. React hooks. It's a part of React, like a technology within React that's way more advanced than the scope of this beginner talk. But if you ever want to look it up, it's React hooks. You can use state, Google all those things. Use effect. Yeah, but that's the idea is the stuff comes out of here and, you know, and somehow ends up in here. Somehow ends up in here. So everything's related, everything's tied together. Okay, so let's keep looking at other things. And also type in the chat if you're actually already familiar with React hooks. Probably not a lot of people, or maybe nobody, but maybe there are some advanced people. But feel free to share if you are. And then I'll just keep talking beyond hooks. We're not really going to focus on that advanced part. So what else can we look at? And then type in the chat if there's a part you want to look at. If you see something interesting, we can go into it. But I'm going to look at win combinations, right? Like just how does this work? How does it detect? If I hit play again and I'm clicking through it, how does it detect that this is the combo the triple X diagonal is a combo. The oops, I messed it up. The horizontal, the X, the vertical is a combo. Like where does it get these winning combinations from? You know, so this is all the smarts inside it. Win combinations. And then how would you know where to look? Hey, look at this, helpers, win combinations. So we'll look at the file, win combinations. Yep. So yeah, whoever typed all those. Does anyone know what this type of data structure is called? Feel free to share as well. You know what kind of data structure this is. It starts with A. Oh yeah, so everyone got it right. Array. It's like a matrix, like in math, matrix. Same idea. Yep. In JavaScript, an array. And it's an array of 2D array. Very good, very good. Yeah. So maybe some math background there. Like a nested array is what they tend to use in programming terms. Something's nested inside another thing. Oh yeah, someone said it. Okay, nested array, great. Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so nested array. Great. Typing out, not sure the typing out the nested array. You can feel free to elaborate, or if anyone else gets what that means, feel free to keep conversing in the chat. Okay, so anyway, so that's the source of all those combinations. If someone were to hack in here, maybe this is like the most popular, you know, tic-tac-toe app on the Google Play Store. Maybe you publish your amazing app and it's got tic-tac-toe and in-game rewards and it's got 1 million players. But maybe someone hacks into your app and somehow uploads and just starts messing around with your code. They substitute these numbers and they don't, you know, they're really smart about it. They don't make it too obvious. So suddenly your players, they're playing and it's not detecting some combinations, right? You know, those are all possible things. Like someone just broke your app. Let me undo the changes I made. Okay, so this, yeah. So someone could break your app with those things, and it's not a literally breaking, you know. Like the literally breaking obvious is like what I did in the beginning, you know. Maybe there's the smallest typo, and watch this. If I just remove the letter E, oh, you know, it's gone. Not a single part of the app will run. Like every single letter could matter, not necessarily everything, you know. So oops, let me put the E back in. Like these spaces, they don't matter. Like it takes out some spaces, you know, do an extra line here. It won't break anything because it's all, the language is smart enough to realize you don't mean anything by that. Okay, great. So that's that. So we talked about a couple of things. I'll keep talking, but if anyone else has some chat things they want to look at, well, actually, I might miss, we might not be able to, but well, anyway, feel free to keep having conversations in the chat. But also if you, I might not be able to, but if you want to, but again, I might not actually be able to get it. I don't. Let's see. So there's a question. Is the game data board checking for the win combinations by row? Win the board. So if someone knows that one, feel free to answer it. I'm not sure exactly right off the bat. Let me, because I'm focusing on my thing, so let me just keep going. If I do see a question that I can answer, I'll definitely answer it. Like render squares. We'll keep looking at these functions. So I think it's pretty obvious what this does. If I take this out, oh, the squares are gone. Oops. Let me undo. I didn't cut and paste. Okay, so it's back. So div, here's a div. Here's that div in here. The thing about this is like it's tricky because the div is not in your HTML. The HTML, there's actually not a lot in here. There's nothing in here. It's React, and this is the whole point of React. It finds this div and puts a bunch of stuff into it. It eventually puts this div into it. And what is this div? Oh yeah, does anyone want to say what this div represents? What this little block that I highlighted? Feel free to converse with each other about your ideas on what this is. But it's basically the div for one. No, yep, someone said it. It's for one square. One little square. If you see my cursor, every square, yep. And does anyone want to say, how come there's 9 squares, but I only have to write this one div? I'll put some spaces so it's easier to see. Okay, so people have definitely been looking at some pre-work, pre-existing things, so that's great. And for those who don't know, yeah, the dot map is your iterator, like loops. It loops through and does things automatically for you. So nine times this div will display because of this map. So let's look at here. Let's start breaking some things. This is going to be equal to a number. Someone said it too, like 9. So this will work too, 9. Oh wait, this won't work. Oops, sorry. I was thinking, okay, so I was thinking conceptually, but not. But anyway, the idea, this is an array. This is going to be an array. But let's look at here, actually. Console log. Game board dot log. Okay. So this is what was in that array. You see that? Look at that. That's the array. And feel free to tell each other what you think these little blank things, why is it like these little blank quotes? And why is it that if I click, oh, there's an X here. Where'd that come from? Oh, there's another X. Pretty cool, huh? It's got everything's tied together. Okay, great. Dot board, yeah, that's where that's come from. And again, dot board, it's being set up for you here. You see that? You can take a minute to look at that. There's definitely some things to process mentally. Array. I can test this. Array 9. I write array 9 in here. Undefined. So array 9.fill. Whoa, okay. Right. Pretty cool. That's how it's getting that. Okay, just give everyone a moment to process some of this so far. Okay, good. And then, so what are variables? Let's move back to more, let's go backwards to more beginner-ish concepts. What are variables? And can we find a variable in here? You can say, if you have some thoughts on what a variable is, what's a variable and what's a const? Is a const a type of variable? Or is it a const versus a variable? And what's the variable here? And what's the equal sign? What is that? Yup, it's a constant. Equal is an assign. Yes, it is assigning what it is to the variable. This is a lot of stuff that it's assigning, but let's just look at a variable. You can write JavaScript in your console. Well, I'll start out with const test equals. Okay, I'll just use that empty string thing again. Okay, don't worry about the undefined. Oh, maybe it's something. Okay, let me see what's going on. Does anyone see what's going on? Sometimes it messes up. But don't worry about it if you don't. We'll just look at other things. Anyway, the const, if I changed this to winning combos, it breaks. I would have to change all these other references to winning combos. And it looks like there was just one place where that occurred. If I change this, and this is like a variable too. It's called a, does anyone want to say what, maybe someone already, like for review of what you learned? Let me make it easier to look at, like the spaces. They won't care about the spaces. Like, what is this? What kind of data structure is this one that I'm highlighting? You can say, yeah, it's an object. And then these are the keys and values. But those are just the technical terms. It's like a variable and then the value of the variable. And then if I change this, again, it breaks because, does anyone know what line number we would have to look at if we want to, from the error message, that if we want to change it to fix it? If you want to practice reading errors, I don't know if the font's too small. Yep, 56. So I go to 56. So what did I change? What did I change? Right? What does this mean? If I put an S here, will it work again? Oh, no. Because see, there's a lot more places this time where I have to change all those things. But I won't because there's so many. I'll change it back. Let me change it back. But yeah, this is an object. Yeah. And then someone says, what if winner and is draw, right? So we can just keep hacking breaking things, but it still works. I mean, it still displays things. So we didn't break everything. Oh, it kind of still works. What happened? You know, oh, what happened? Oh, it still worked again. Yep. So you can do a lot of these, but it doesn't, you can't always, you know, what's it gonna break? Everything's tied together. Okay. So if you, once again, the theme of this was like, remember, like a radio. Okay, you're a beginner, you don't know how to build a radio. But then someone gave you this pretty advanced boombox or something. And then you're thinking, okay, so how do I take it apart without completely breaking it, without and still be able to learn from it? So this is the same idea. You're just taking things apart. You wouldn't expect a beginner at any point to be able to build a React tic-tac-toe game. That would be, I don't know who would ever be able to do that as a beginner starting out. So without a background in React, you know, and in JavaScript, a pretty advanced React and JavaScript. So don't worry that this is not, but you can learn a lot from taking it apart, which is what I'm saying. You can still learn a lot taking things apart, right? Googling terms. Yep. Great. You got a retired programmer, something about that. That's great. So yeah, and we're at 4:08. So we're getting pretty close to questions. Let me see, maybe we should start officially getting into questions, because we talked about a lot of these basics, a lot of the functions. You heard variables, constants, objects. Let me summarize. If statements, the console log, use console logs if you want to know what something is equal to. Console logs, and you can put multiple console logs. Yeah, you can put multiple, as many as you want in here. So anyway, so let me see. I don't want to leave anything behind, but I think that covers it. So maybe we should move to questions if there are any. If there's any Q&A, I think also if Corey wants to transition towards that, or maybe not.
Looks
but
like,
I think, yeah.
okay. Yeah. If anybody has any questions about what we went over tonight, go ahead and put it in the chat or you can use the Q&A function. Looks like we do have 2 questions in there right now. How do I clone the tic-tac-toe project to Visual Studio?
Oh, okay, Q&A. Okay. Feel free to answer that if anyone wants to in the chat, because maybe there's multiple ways and multiple ideas. But what I know is, let me see, maybe exporting as a zip file. And let me see if I can find that for anyone who might be interested, because you will be using this. You will be using Visual Studio Code if you enroll in the camp. So definitely try to test out this method to open it in Visual Studio Code. So I click export to zip, I download it, and then I probably won't go into Visual Studio Code, but you open this file up, and then you get into Visual Studio Code. Yeah, this would work. If you extract this and then open it in Visual Studio Code, it would work. It would work. But then you also have to, you know, find a browser to run it. And if you do, you would do this. You literally just open the HTML file and it would be like, oh, let me unfull screen. And it would show this this is what you would see, yeah, if you open it up. So that's Visual Studio Code. I mean, this isn't Visual Studio Code, but that's how you would do it. The zip file, open the zip file, and then open that everything from the zip file in Visual Studio Code. And then I'll keep reading these questions. I think there were just a few. IDX, let me think about what this IDX thing is.
There was
Okay,
also a question about InDesign, and that was a while back, but if you are still here, if you want to re-ask that question.
Yeah, feel free to re-ask.
And then there's another question about why pick React for this game.
Oh, what was that? Is there, oh, I see it. Why pick React? Yeah, okay. Okay, let me think about that really quick. Yeah, why React? And let me get a drink of water real quick. Okay, so I'm back on here. So why React? Because React is if you enroll in the course, it's going to be the very first module or the second module. And I think it's the third, fourth, fifth, but you will cover React. It's the main thing that you're learning. And it's your main course. And it's what you're going to be showing off to your employer if you graduate. It's your React, because that's the most in-demand job market technology. So you want to know React for sure. Yeah, React is very important. From Facebook, Meta, it's from there.
Did we get into the IDX question?
Nope, not yet.
Okay.
So this looks like it's going to go back into our code. So I'm going to navigate back. And it's asking, what is it doing under render squares? Oh, the IDX. Okay, right. Yeah, does anyone want to guess what this stands for? It's actually, I mean, you could call it anything, but this is happens to be called IDX. There's a term that it stands for, and it has to do with arrays. So, ooh, yeah, Sydney answered it very quickly. Yes. Remember, you can name this anything, but if you do, you just have to name it back so it matches. I may not get all these. And I am sharing this screen, so you should be able to see. So now it's back to normal. The index. Yeah, it's the index. Yep, it's the index of an array, 0 through 8. Yeah, 0 through 8. Yep, that's what that is.
Was there anything else anybody wanted a little bit more detail on?
Mm-hmm. Data dash position. Is it on here now? Do you have a line number? Or did you mean data set dot position? Probably data set. I'm assuming line, 62. Oh, okay, data position. Another far more advanced. So even HTML, they say it's basic, but there's there's levels of HTML, and this is more advanced part of HTML. But it's yeah, how would I even say this? Because it's more advanced. It's a way of storing variables in HTML. Yeah, you wouldn't hear about that, but it's the HTML. This is like storing data within your HTML. And the variable is going to be called position. And then we can look at it. So if there's this data dash position here, we're going to actually try to find it. Before we get to the next question, just to be clear what this is, I will find it within elements, div. It's gonna see if this is so nested. Hey, see data position, see these positions. So that's very intro, but that's essentially it. Data anything. Yep. Yeah, anything. It just happens to be position right now. Yeah. Okay. And then we can go to, if that settles that, we can go to some other questions.
We got something in the Q&A about, does React have a good debugger?
Does React have a debugger? I'll show you here. So since we're here, we can look at this is the React debugger. You can look at stuff inside React. Remember that? I'll make the font a little bigger so you guys can see it. The hooks thing I talked about. Well, look at all this stuff, it's all in here. This is the React Dev Tools. And how do you find it? You got to go to you actually got to go to your Chrome. If you're using Chrome, the web store, the extension store, and you just type in React Dev Tools. And then here, this should include it as well if you want to use this. Oh, yeah, it's here. React Dev Tools. And you can also test out the word debugger. That's the JavaScript debugger. I think I broke something earlier, so it didn't. But this will take you into your code. And then it'll let you also kind of debug. Oh, there it is. Okay, so see how it stopped. But this is not beginners. Well, it's like intermediate. So play around with it, discover more. But this is the another debugging tool by typing in this word, debugger. Okay, we can get to any other questions.
There's another one from Andrew about making slightly more complex browser games with React, like Chromo Dino Runner.
Okay, let me think about that.
Sorry, Chrome Dino Runner.
Yeah, Chrome. Okay, so it looks like he's talking about, it looks like Andrew, you're talking about a game, React game. And you're asking if you can make games with React, complex browser games. Yes, definitely. I don't know the Dino Runner, but it looks like, yes, there will be plenty of Googling just React games. I bet there's like a whole, or even on YouTube, React game tutorials. There's got to be a whole bunch, yeah, nowadays, React games. Yeah, and whoever wants to check out that can.
Oh, they said the little dinosaur game you can play on Chrome when a page doesn't load.
Oh, that thing. I think I've seen it. Yeah. Yeah, anything more? Let's see. I'm looking at some more questions. Yeah, that's the page loading animation. Is that a game? That's not a game, is it? I don't know if that's. I don't think that's a game, but maybe I'm not familiar with it. The dinosaur. But you guys can feel free to, yeah, as well. So let me see if there's more. I don't think the InDesign had anything more. Oh, there's a Q&A. So maybe I'll look at that. Would you suggest not learning? No, definitely learn the course is set up where you learn the JavaScript first. So if you want to prep for the course, go ahead and learn both if you want, but just know that as you're learning it, the thing that's going to come first is just vanilla JavaScript. So you might as well pour more time into that. Yeah.
Oh, it looks like there is a game. They put it in the chat.
Yep. Okay, great. Yep. We got the actual game. And then I'll keep looking at these questions and feel free to, oh, great. Yep, there's a game. Maybe it is React. Yeah. So if you guys want to, are there any more questions? I didn't see everything.
There's one more about what is the game data line 48?
Yeah, we'll keep looking at that. Yeah, that's a weird thing, right? The game data line. So if I'm highlighting 48, and again, if we want to test this out, you know, we could, one, console log it, but two, remember that thing we just talked about, the debugger? So if I look at game data, so all the, you can actually see it in here. Remember that 48 is here. And then bring my console. This is the escape key. You can sources. And then I can go here too. The ... is like and data. It's meant to work within this. Within this thing. Let me go to 48. It's part of this whole thing, but the ... is the spread operator. So if I test that out, if I clear this console, I copied all that. Okay, so I have to reference. Okay, yeah. It's this is like scope. It's having reference issues, but it's a spread operator. It like it takes everything in game data and puts it into this new object essentially. And if you want to know more, I'll type it in the chat. It's the spread operator. Oh, someone already said it. Okay, great. Yeah, spread operator. Okay, great.
Looks like there's another question about HTML and CSS in the course.
Yep, you should be familiar at least. Yep, I think there's pre-work for that as well. So do all your pre-work, do everything. You don't want to miss pre-work.
Okay, guys, we've got about 5 more minutes left. Do you guys have any more questions or want to go over anything else we've gone through in the presentation tonight? Do you have any tips on how to land your first dev job?
My tips, is putting your best foot forward. And I'm not a career coach, but if you go through the program towards the end, you will get a career coach who will work with you every week. Once you enroll, there are plenty of resources that Flatiron gives you that's tried and true from their past students. Being paired one-on-one with a career coach, they will give you plenty of advice. So you should feel good about that.
Do you think that
The
there's
first step,
anything
yeah.
that you need to have like prepared as far as like portfolios, or if there are certain technical things that you've had to do personally for any sort of interviews that you can share with people?
Portfolio. Okay. Oh yeah. If anyone else knows any, yeah, go ahead and list them. Portfolio. Yeah. Portfolio for your employers. Yeah. Rehearsing your interviews. Reading up on the company background so you know what the company is about. So during the interview, you can tell them specific things about the company. I think things like that. Yeah.
And then we have another question about what is React most commonly used for?
It's used for games. It's used for like tic tac toe. It's used for probably on Facebook. It is used on Facebook, Instagram, a lot of these websites. But it's a good way to make things really fast, make complex websites run really fast. That's what it's used for.
Okay, guys, if there aren't any more questions, we're going to start closing everything down. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We love being able to throw these events and have a way for everybody to network and get to ask really great questions. I want to thank Tao again for helping us through this tic-tac-toe with React. And if you guys, just a quick reminder that we will be sending an email out with the information we went over tonight and a video from the recording tonight. So thank you again, and we hope to see you at our next event. Go ahead and if you haven't been to our YouTube page already, go ahead and go there and subscribe. All of our videos that we do for our workshops are going to be listed there as well. Have a good night, y'all.
Okay, bye, everyone. Have a good night.